Two underground films made in 1963 helped declare that there was indeed an underground film movement, and also announced, in very different ways, what its purpose was. Aside from providing a forum for outsider filmmakers, it hoped to prompt discussion about what cinema can do and whether or not the art form can even be authoritatively defined. Previously, making movies had mainly been the domain of studios, with the resources to pay for crew, equipment, and other materials needed for production. That started to change in the 50s, with the breaking up of studio theatre monopolies, allowing independence to emerge, as well as the availability of new 60mm cameras that were light and affordable, making filmmaking more accessible to artists and documentarians. Mothlight and Sleep are just two of many new kinds of films that started appearing in the early 60s, such as those by Jack Smith, Bruce Conner, and the Kuchar brothers. During this same period, many epic and notoriously expensive movies were making it increasingly clear that Hollywood had lost touch with society at large. The French New Wave and the so-called New American Cinema provided the raw, realistic, and streetwise alternative to bloated mainstream movies. Taboo subjects and minimal production values were only part of the underground's agenda. What these films were really questioning is, to what extent a film can strip away the affectations of cinema and still be considered a film? Is there a point at which a film's methods reach such an extreme that it evolves into a different art form? For the 3-minute film Mothlight, Stan Brakhage collected the wings of dozens of moths that had died after flying into a lamp, assembled them onto 60mm splicing tape, along with other translucent items like flower petals and blades of grass, and then had the strips developed and converted to film. It was made entirely without a camera. Nothing was scripted or even photographed. To live, it required only a projector. Sleep is a 5.5-hour film depicting poet and artist John Giorno asleep in bed. It was photographed personally by Andy Warhol, alone, using a silent Bolex camera that could only shoot 4 minutes worth of film at a time. The film is made up of many short segments at diverse angles, most of them looped or replayed several times at slightly reduced speed. A live abstract musical soundtrack was provided when the film was presented in public. Both Mothlight and Sleep are intensely personal films for their creators. Brakhage saw the dying moths as a horrifying metaphor for his own self-destructive infatuation with cinema. The fact that he was driven to make his own films, even though they did nothing to provide sustenance for his young family and himself. The film became a way to restore life and to transform a tragedy into something beautiful. Warhol's film was inspired by his recent intimate experience, staying up all night watching his lover sleep. He wanted to recreate this memory, not just to preserve it, but to see if such mundane human activity could be reprocessed and dealt with in an artistic way. As he learned how to operate the new camera and worked out how to manipulate the shots, Warhol also put his ambivalence about personal relationships front and center. When the film camera was invented, the first things that people wanted to do with it were to photograph real-life actions, to see what they looked like, and also to conjure up new phenomena that did not exist in real life. As outsiders to the professional film industry, Brakhage and Warhol were, in a sense, discovering the art form anew and reinventing it. Both films are anti-intellectual. They had no scripts, storyboards, nor dialogue. They espouse no philosophy. They are expressions of pure id and obsession. indulging the impulses to gaze and to cheat death. The attraction of the photographer to a lover's body is comparable to the attraction of the moths to the flame, as well as to the way that we are all mesmerized by the fire-like flickering of movies. Cinema is animation, the mechanical illusion that still objects are moving. It can revive the dead and freeze cherished moments forever. Picturing a continuum with Mothlight representing spasm and velocity on one extreme, and sleep standing for trance-like impassivity on the other. Those who care about film as an art form are faced with questions about its parameters. Warhol's movies show us that films don't necessarily require actors, crew, writing, or distribution. Brackages demonstrate that films can be made with no other people at all, and even without the use of a camera. If all of this is true, then what exactly is cinema? Consciously or not, the greatest film artists are always trying to answer this question.